there are some situations where comps are irrelevant. People are just going to pay what they're willing to pay, and that's the ultimate price of real estate.
You had somebody who'd owned their home for 50 years. They wanted to make sure that the next people who lived in their home were going to love it the way they did and not just knock it down. The agent-to-agent relationships,
I was just going to say that,
are really important.
Call the agent.
Everybody,
hey,
I've gotten...
how are you?
No,
Did you get my flowers?
The tough part for me is when I know that I'm working with potentially a first-time home buyer. It doesn't matter what their budget is, but they haven't bought a home yet and they have saved a certain amount of money for the budget of their home. And then we have this discussion. We need to have our buyer broker agreement in place so that it's very transparent what our commission is and who is responsible for paying that. And then we enter into a multiple offer situation, and one of the strategies to help strengthen my buyer's offer is to possibly reduce or waive what the seller would be paying. And then that responsibility falls on the home buyer. Well, then they have to come up with or account for an additional amount to cover our services.
Right.
That's a tough one.
Especially if someone's putting down, 5 or 10%. If it's their first time buying
Right.
a home, they have other closing costs.
Right, and they've been looking in, certain buckets and, seeing what they can afford for what they want, and then all of a sudden that gets altered. So,
And you want to be able to provide buyers with representation. If you're a first-time home buyer and you try to go in this without an agent representation, you're not going to win, especially in like this market with multiple offers. I just don't think unless you have to be kind of seasoned, right? But if you're a first-time home buyer, you're not seasoned. You're in the situation where it's like, I want representation, but maybe I can't afford it. Let's work that into the offer.
it's a term that is becoming more utilized than it ever was before, even though it was always an option. And it's just something that we want to manage expectations up front.
Let's have a little bit of fun with this. If you were to craft the most ideal offer, so this is your buyer, they are the riskiest person, they don't care, they love risk, right? What would they do for an offer that would blow the sellers out of the water and would just make them just sign right in the line, right then and there?
First of all, what's your max budget?
They're willing to go 20% over the list price.
Yeah, call, crazy rich Uncle Jimmy and get whatever comes up to you from the trust, right? Pull that out. Waive your inspection.
Yeah, no inspection.
No inspection. Are we mortgaged or cash?
It has to be cash. If this is the most ideal, riskiest situation.
Okay, cash buyer.
Yes,
Cash buyer with a crazy amount of over 20% over asking price. Waive your home inspection.
Obviously, there's no mortgage contingency,
no
home contingency,
appraisal.
There's no appraisal, 10-day close.
Yep. Earnest money, make it hard.
Yeah.
I don't care what happens with this deal. If this deal dies, you get to keep my money as a penalty.
It's $1 million place. We're offering $1 million on this place, and we're putting down $100,000, and that's non-refundable. If we back out for any reason,
you get to
keep it, right?
Yep.
You could do that.
Closing date, they pick it.
Seller picks it. Maybe they rent back for 30 days free of charge.
Free. Exactly.
You can get kind of ridiculous with these things, but that's just to show that is the absolute extreme. Do we see that? No. But there's aspects of that we might see. We do see higher than the list price by a significant amount. We see cash. We see flexible closing, 10 days, 30 days, whatever the seller wants. And we do see people waiving contingencies, right? We do see inspection waiving. I've seen it a few times. It's more popular in those hotter markets that, throughout COVID, like Florida and stuff. That was all I was hearing, was everyone was waiving inspections. It is crazy, but it's a possibility, and you have to let buyers know that is something you can do to make your offer look really good.
Right.
Really stand out.
So one thing that I have really been proud of our industry for, that is happening more now than I've ever seen, is when my buyers are in a multiple offer scenario and they lose out. And in the past, we would probably get some sort of, boring beige boilerplate response from the listing agent. Sorry, your offer didn't get accepted. My client went with somebody that had stronger terms. Okay, help me out here.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to
Help me help you.
Help me help you. How am I supposed to explain to my buyer that somebody had stronger terms? What does that mean?
Right.
So lately, a lot of agents have been sending, the consolation email when our clients offers didn't get chosen, but they're providing context. They might say, we received 11 offers. Of those, 6 waived inspection, 4 were cash, all 11 were over asking. This one, 3 waived their buyer commission. Those pieces of information are so helpful to be able to bring back to my client and say, all right, look, these are some of the things that they received. Some of these terms we could not compete with.
Yeah.
So we can't feel bad about that. It just was not within the realm of possibility for us.
Yeah.
But here are some other aspects that maybe you didn't consider as heavily that we can utilize next time.
Yes.
So I really pride myself on wanting to give context to as many people as I can, just because I think we're all in this business together. We're all trying to keep this market moving forward. Let's help each other out.
Yeah.
Help your buyers, get them better prepared for the next time, and hopefully they're more successful.
Yeah. So what are some ways then that are not recommended ways to win, right? Not saying that they're risky. These are just kind of, we'll just say for lack of a better term, like dumb.
I don't do dumb.
I don't either, but I'm saying somebody might do these things. They might say okay, I'll do a non-refundable earnest money, but if you can't afford it, don't do that.
Yeah, don't risk your mortgage contingency.
Yeah,
if you've been in your job for 6 months and yes, you are, comfortably employed and your verification checks out and your lender's cool with it and everything, but you might have a sales role and you could be on the chopping block at any time, or your company goes public and poof, there goes your job. I think waiving your mortgage contingency if you are not 100% sure about your financial situation is one of the dumbest things.
Well, not say dumb.
I don't
We'll
like
say,
that word.
Okay.
My kids aren't allowed to use that word.
Okay, we'll say not recommended.
Not recommended.
These are things not recommended.
Way too risky.
Now, risky could be okay. It's relative to the person that's willing to do this, right?
I don't like waiving inspections. I
never recommend that.
I don't like that at all. I think even, what I say to my clients is, okay, we might need to take this in as-is condition, no request. The seller has made it very clear they will not respond to a thing. So you either want this in the condition it's in or you don't. Why that inspection is important is because they come away with a guide of, recommendations. What do you need to upgrade? What needs to be replaced immediately? This is a health and safety hazard, and they kind of use that list as a handyman tick list down the line. Save a couple $1,000s, get somebody in, fix these things up. They need doing, and you can chip away at that down the line, but at least you get your home inspection.
Yeah.
I would just never waive that.
Yeah, I also don't recommend to just never look at the comps or not even consider the comps, either high or low. Some people might say, well, that doesn't, this place is better or worse than that. And listen, there are some situations where comps are irrelevant, right? People are just going to pay what they're willing to pay, and that's the ultimate price of real estate. But it is anchored to a bit with the comps. And so paying attention to those is really vital. Looking at what the market has done since those comps have closed is also vital, right? So that's important. I would recommend that. But when people kind of just pick numbers out of a hat,
that's one of those
be more a little realistic.
Really annoying questions that we get when you walk out of a house and let's say it's listed for $750,000 and you walk out of the house and the buyers say, well, what do you think this is going to sell for? I could probably ballpark it and get it right in the end when it closes, but without looking at the data, I'm not just going to spew that off the top of my head. I don't feel good, crafting an offer without at least showing my clients what the market data says.
Yeah.
Like you said, it could be irrelevant because a home is worth what a buyer is willing to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's going to pay an exorbitant amount over asking price, okay, they just set the market and we were all wrong. But let's at least look at the data, feel good about it, put it on paper.
Something else I don't recommend, I wouldn't say this is dumb. I don't want to discourage people if this is something they really hold strongly. I've done this, is the love letter.
So those are optional. Sellers can choose not to accept love letters.
Well, I mean, yes, they can say no love letters. I get it. I don't recommend them anymore because it's just opening yourself up to fair housing violations. You put anything in there that's a protected class, no matter what you say about yourself, your family. I've had clients say we came from blah, blah, blah. And, it's anything like that, you're just opening yourselves up to fair housing violations.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to do that. We don't want to put our sellers into that situation. We don't want to put other sellers into that situation. That could be really nasty.
Yeah, that was a lot more common back in the day when you had somebody who'd owned their home for 50 years and they wanted to make sure that the next people who lived in their home were going to love it the way they did and not just knock it down.
But if somebody says like
sentimental.
they go to the same religious institution that I go to, that's great. Okay, well now that's a violation. You
Right.
know, you're picking someone based on.
There's definitely a fine balance between like removing the emotion from the home buying process and looking at it from a business perspective.
Yeah.
The longer you're in it, the less emotional you're going to be about it. You know,
Yeah.
generally buyers, like their very first offer that they're putting in, they're super invested and they're really excited. And if they don't get the home, they're really deflated. As time goes on, they start to realize like, okay, we can't become emotionally invested here. This is just numbers at the end of the day. We didn't win for a certain reason, but yeah, I'm kind of with you. There was a house on my street. Oh my gosh, it's like the perfect little Leave It to Beaver home. It's got a white picket fence out front with these gables and everything. It's just adorable. And the sellers, I remember, said, we don't want to know who is buying our house. We don't want to make our decision based on the person.
Exactly.
We have a very specific situation for why we're selling. We need very specific things, and we're going to go with the offer that matches what we need. I don't want to know who this person is that I'm rejecting and who it is that I'm able to,
Right.
sell my house to.
So not only don't send the love letters, I mean, we'd highly recommend not to give love letters, not to write love letters, and not to include pictures of you and whoever you were buying this property with, whether that's partner, family, whatever it is, because no matter what, there could be a case for saying they chose me or didn't choose me because of this reason.
I would agree. It's probably one thing that I would leave off.
I think it just puts the seller in kind of like a sticky situation sometimes.
Yeah.
And so we want to avoid that. But other than that, is there anything else you can think of that kind of makes your offer stand out? How does the buyer win in today's market?
The one thing that is not necessarily what is going to win, but the agent to agent relationships.
I was just going to say that.
Are really important. This is why I keep
Call the agent.
Call the agent, yes, but everybody.
Hey,
I've gotten.
How are you?
No,
Did you
okay.
get my flowers?
So I hear from a lot of people that dabble in real estate. Maybe they bought a house before or whatever, but they think that we are just all out to get each other. We're all each other's competition 24/7, and this is a rat race, and you must hate that other realtor because, they're in a different brokerage. Or
We don't hate any realtors.
No, but a lot of people think that we are just in this like fierce competition and that every other realtor is our enemy. I am always going to be the advocate for my client, regardless of my relationship with other realtors. But I have said this from day one, those relationships that you form with the rest of the real estate industry are so important.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the make or break in an offer scenario. If all things are apples to apples with 3 or 4 offers on the table and they've all got strong lenders, all their financial terms are the same, as is, whatever, there's an agent that can vouch to their seller that, hey, I know Liz, I know Andy, I've worked with them before. They are solid. They've got a great team. They've got a great process. They pick up the phone. They communicate. They are like motivated to get this to the closing table as smoothly as possible for you. And I know this because of experience. They are going to be a great offer to consider.
Right. Yeah, you look at the certain ones and you're like, this person, they know what they're doing. I've never heard of this agent before. Not to say that
They don't.
We've been in this long enough where you know who the players are, right? Top 20% of agents doing 80% of the deals, 80-20 rule. So you know who's going to get a deal done and who may not, or you're just not sure. Not to say you shouldn't consider that offer, but it could make or break based on who you have as your representation.
Right. It's tough. Like I've shown up at showings before where they've been so busy that there's multiple groups there, and I will see my other realtor agent friends and their clients. We all know that we're submitting offers and we all know that we're going super competitive, and then you find out that somebody else won the deal and you could pick up the phone and be like, hey, where did you guys, come in at with your offer price? What if it it was lower than ours? What if their terms were worse than ours, but that listing agent knew that other buyer's agent? Sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that I think it's just the relationship aspect in general.
Having a good standing amongst the community. And
Right.
I'm not going to pretend like I haven't had my moments that I'm not as proud of, but sometimes you have to also stick up for your client, right?
It's always about the client. Like
Yeah,
I said.
we separate out the negativity or the confrontation as much as we can. We say like everything goes through me. I go to their agent, right, and they talk to their client. We have to keep people separate because that's how deals get done is through our communication. So knowing that you have somebody on the other side that can communicate well, right, that you've worked with before, it's going to be a smooth deal, right? So that is kind of like that other factor that might win out when it comes.
Yeah, submit your offer, pick up the phone, call the listing agent and say, hey, listen, like my clients love this for all of these different reasons. This is where we're coming in at. You know me, you know how we work, you know that we're going to make this smooth. We're going to get this deal done for you. Please choose us.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Send them a little gift, a little bribery. No, but I will say that this industry, yes, we are competitive. I would say that if you can keep it a friendly competition, then that's how you kind of win as an agent in this. That's healthy. You'll see that any agent is a real proactive. Any agent that's successful is proactive, getting things done, calling people, doing what it takes when it needs to be done. And that's part of that competition aspect. I think that every good realtor has that competition streak in them or that anything else, multiple offers, pretty solid.
Saddle up.
Get
Talk
some thick skin.
Thick skin.
Yeah, talk to us and
we'll help you. And just it's tough out there right
It's
now.
tough.
But we're in a really great market. Chicago's still a really great market. So we're gonna feel good no matter what home you get in the end.